And there's a great clip in it when you see me lose it, and there's kind of, oh no, and then I go up and over the bars and sail through the air, and just before I land, you hear me say, oh, in a bush, that's new, and I land into a bush. At least it was a change in the type of crashes I was having, because usually I'd end up on my back in a puddle with a bike on top of me. At least I landed in a bush, it was different. Hi, I'm Richard Hammond, and these are my favorite road trips for It's Gone Viral. We shot a special in Mongolia where we were dropped off in a truck that we had to build ourselves and drive out. And we really were, and we did. And it was amazing because as a place, nobody owns the land. It's all free. You just go where you want to go. And if you arrive somewhere and think, well, I'd quite like to live here, build a house and live there. It was the most, I've always wanted to go. And it was a fabulous place. Again, the most daunting landscape sometimes. I've since got into listening to The Who, which is a Mongolian rock band, and you can hear the landscape in their music. It's hard and brutal, but human. And it's one of those places where if you see a stranger, you welcome them in and you give them food, you give them all the support you can, because next time it might be you that needs it. And that sort of suffuses and pervades the whole place and made it an absolutely wonderful place to visit. I felt very, very lucky to go. Okay, well, my next will be the Scotland special that we made year before last, because we did some of the North Coast 500. And I mean, we'd ummed and ahed saying we can't travel, should we do anything? And then we thought, hang on, we could go to Scotland. And do you know what? It is some of the most beautiful scenery in the world. And yes, it's local if you live in the UK, but if you live in China or America or Australia, it's not local. It's every bit as exotic as everywhere else. And it is breathtaking. So it was a real joy to be able to show that off to the world. I'm going to go for Colombia, because I loved my truck. I had an enormous pickup truck, which I very much enjoyed. I didn't enjoy driving over a simply vast bridge. It was just terrifying. At one point, I hold my hand up to the camera and it's just shaking like that. I was terrified on that bridge with no sides on it and my enormous pickup truck. But it was a beautiful country. I mean, obviously, a very tortured past. Which tends to rather get in the way of it, and you tend to just think of it in terms of Escobar, etc. But actually, it's breathtaking. See, I mean, genuinely beautiful from around one corner to the next. And a good example of how being lucky enough to get to do these trips means we get to go to places that you wouldn't normally go to. And we have to go because it's work. So it's not like you arrive in a place sometimes if it's your holiday, your expectations are really high. It's got to be brilliant to measure up. But if you're there for work, it doesn't matter. And in fact, with our work, if it's really bad, that's really good because it'll make a good show. But we got to Colombia and it was just some of the most beautiful countryside I've seen. Fabulous place to be. My next one will be, it's African again, Mozambique, when we were taking fish from the fish market into the interior. It was a tough and arduous journey, and sadly one that couldn't be made at the moment, which is heartbreaking because it was a beautiful place with some incredible people that we met. The reason I've chosen it from the top 5, I used a bike. It was a terrible bike. We bought it from a supermarket and it was a Chinese copy, I think, of an Indian copy of a Japanese bike. I mean, it was I think it cost 500 quid, which cost to the average Mozambique resident, it's quite a lot of money. But it was a pretty weak bike. I loved it because it had a bit of Oliver about it. Very humble, very unpretentious, but kind of indestructible. And when we were following the track inland, a lot of water, it got very wet. And there was in my mind, I was thinking, I'm going to look like, what's his face going the long way around on their big BMWs. But I really didn't, because I'm on this little tiny shopping bike. But riding it through puddles, when I'd look down and I could see none of the bike at all, just the top of the fuel tank sticking out. It was more akin to being on a jet ski than on a motorbike. And it kept going. Eventually, when it could breathe no more air, then it would conk out and I'd have to haul it out. That's why I was glad it was a small bike, and dry it out, and then it would start again. That thing was indestructible. It shouldn't have worked. And I must have crashed it 15 to 20 times a day. Again, a particular memory, we got onto this one stretch of tracks that had this very fine red dust, incredibly fine. And it meant I would fall off immediately. And I'd be on, normal mud and rutted roads, and I'd see this red dust. Oh no, here we go. And almost instantly, because the front tyre was just a road tyre, it wasn't a knobbly one, it just had lines around it, a very old-fashioned road-going tyre. So immediately, front end would wash out. And there's a great clip in it when you see me lose it, and there's kind of, oh no, and then I go up and over the bars and sail through the air, and just before I land, you hear me say, oh, in a bush, that's new, and I land into a bush. At least it was a change in the type of crashes I was having, because usually I'd end up on my back in a puddle with a bike on top of me. At least I landed in a bush. It was different.
I didn't want to say anything, but yeah, I'm pleased.
Made a change. My first road trip will be one that I suspect my colleagues would pick as well, because we all have very, very fond memories of our trip to Botswana. In a way, it kicked off the specials for us. It was the first time I realized we could make a whole show out of one big journey, and it was to cross the spine of Africa was the way we sold it at the time. Fond memories for me, particularly because that's where I found Oliver, the little yellow 1962 Opel Kadett that I drove, that proved to be just such a plucky, tough, light, rugged little car, built for shopping. But there's me driving it across the Makadi salt flats up onto Kubu Island, and through the Okavango Delta, and through a river full of crocodiles. But some extraordinary places. Kubu Island is a little lump sticking out of the Makadi salt flats that were originally a sea, so it was an island, and it's populated by baobab trees, which is something I'd always wanted to see my whole life. Since as a kid, I had a big book of nature, and it had baobab trees in it, and I thought I'll never get to see one, and I did. And standing next to them and sort of touching them was like patting the flank of a dinosaur. They were just the most incredible things. So it was a really important trip for all of us, and it kind of launched us, I think, into this world of filming these long madcap adventures.
Am I right in thinking you still have Oliver, or is he?
I still have Oliver at home. It took me 2 years to get him shipped home. It's just really complicated exporting a car, but I got it home, and he probably is due another rebuild and refresh at some point, but still works. I still drive him around, and the affection that people feel for that car, it's amazing. If I park that car anywhere in any town or village, I'll come back. There'll always be somebody wanting to talk to me about it. And I think because it's such an unostentatious, unpretentious, humble little car. But I remember one day on that trip, I can't remember what had happened, but I was in a bad mood. I'd had enough. And I took it out on little Oliver and just drove him hell for leather, all off-road. There were no roads. Just hammered him, thinking, well, how much will this car take? And he just took everything through it. Had a fun evening that evening, knocking the dust out of the steering rack on a makeshift tarpaulin in the woods on the edge of a big plain, listening to the lions roar whilst trying to get the steering working. It's kind of a memorable experience.
It doesn't get any better than that.
No, it was pretty cool.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I feel like there needs to be an honourable mention for the USA trip way back. I remember going to school and talking to my mates about that episode where you got chased
Alabama, when we got chased off. Yeah. Oh God,
that was iconic.
That was very early days for us when we were in Alabama, and yeah, that woman took exception, and we were chased off by guys in pickup trucks. We ran for the hills, literally, with guys in pickup trucks with rifles chasing us.
Honestly, yeah. It's one of my favourite memories of your whole career, and I just remember
it's about 20 years ago. That
mad, isn't it?
Old.
Richard, that was amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on the latest series. I love doing these things with you guys. It's always a pleasure, and that was a really nice trip down memory lane. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Cool. Nice to see you.
Hey, what's going on? I'm Kevin Hart.
Hi, my name's Eric Stonestreet.
Hi, I'm Margot. I'm Journey.
I'm James McAvoy.
I'm Daniel Radcliffe.
I'm Rebel Wilson.
I'm Jeremy Clarkson.
I'm going to be translating some Scottish tweets for It's Gone Viral.
On It's Gone Viral.
Ooh. On It's Gone Viral.